So welcome everybody. We'll get started. Shavua Tov. Happy Monday. I'm Cantor Lizzie Shammash, and I'm coming to you from Philadelphia, PA, on this Monday morning. So wherever you are and however you find yourself today in your world, in your body, you are welcome here. Everything is welcome here. So first I want to mention props, and then an announcement from the Institute, and then we'll get started. We'll do a little warm up, some teaching, and then get into the heart of our practice. I want to give you a heads up that today we're going to investigate a little bit of restorative yoga. If you're new to restorative yoga, it involves sometimes a lot of props. I tried to keep it kind of basic, but more than anything, and it's kind of a still practice. We're going to look at Shemitah, at rest and relaxation, rest and release. So if you have a bolster, that's amazing, grab it. If not, blankets, multiple blankets. You can have like a firm sofa cushion could work. That'll go along the spine. You can have bath towels, a pillow. We just want to do a little bit of lift. So try to have blankets, more than one, bolster, whatever. A chair could be good. And then optional things. If you have blocks, grab them. If you have a belt, grab it. And if you have a little sliver of access to the wall, that'll be really good too. But I don't want you to get hung up on props, because it's really what the props provide for us. So I'm going to ask you today to get creative with props, and I'm not with you, so I can't see what you each have, and there are so many of us. So unfortunately, this is where I can't tend to each person. So I'm going to ask you. We all have a variety of bodies, of issues going on. I'm going to ask you to use your discernment about what's right for you. So don't listen as much to the letter of what I'm saying as the spirit of what I'm saying, to set up your individual body for stillness, rest, and comfort. That's the most important thing. And we can field any questions afterwards. So, and if you have no props at all, you will still get great benefit from this class. So I just don't want you to worry. That's my disclaimer. So as you're putting your props together, I want to just say, I did put it in the chat, that gift of awareness registration will close at the end of this week. So if you're interested, please go to that link. We'll put it up at the end too. And it's a beautiful, beautiful course. So you might really enjoy taking advantage. Please take a look at that. And lastly too, like if you have an eye pillow or something like that, that's also a washcloth. It can be really nice to cover your eyes during certain things. So we're gonna get started. Today is the 22nd of Shvat, and we are on Parshat Mishpatim. We're going to take a look at that. So please sit up. It can be in a chair, or it can be on cushioning. I took 2 blankets to really sit myself up. You can do cross legs. You can sit in a chair. If you're able, try to have some support either from a wall or from the back of a chair. We want to really support the back body today. So just find your balance from side to side. You might even rock a little bit side to side. Take a little of the buttock flesh away, so you kind of expose a little more pelvic floor, a little more sitting bone to descend, and find the earth, and let the earth come up and meet you. So kind of giving over, letting the pelvis settle. You might take the back of your head and just rock it a little bit side to side or up and down. Just find some ease on the occiput, the base of the spine. And then, if you've got something behind you, take the back of the skull and just lightly, very lightly press it back. Don't let your chin tighten. Just try to feel some length through the neck. Maybe the chin drops just slightly. That's okay. Not too much, just a little, but press back. We have such a tendency to be at our computers, or to move the head forward in the world, to meet people We wreak a lot of havoc, right, on the spine in that way. So just let the back body draw back. You can close the eyes if you like. Let the palms rest on the thighs, facing up toward the sky. This helps us with two things. It helps us to open the front of the shoulder and place the shoulder blade really nicely onto the back. It's also a stance of receptivity with these open palms. Hineni, I'm here, I'm receiving, I'm waiting. What is there for today? Let the back body melt to the wall, to the back of the chair, to the best of your ability. Let the torso go back. Let the abdomen soften. And then we're going to take the hands, and we're going to take the arms up. You can choose a few ways. If the shoulders are limited or tight, maybe it's a wide V, or it's the elbows bent. If you have more, if the shoulders and elbows and wrists are more open, you'll interlace the fingers, send them forward, keep those shoulder blades widening but on the wall, and take the arms up. Draw the elbows in toward the ears and see if you can equally lengthen both sides of the waist. You don't have to stay too long. Come on down, take the opposite interlace forward. Find the width of the shoulder blades and then draw the bottom tips of the shoulder blades down the back, down the back. And then release. You can take any of those again, or if you have a belt and you'd like to take it, make a wide loop in your belt. Really roughly, when the circle here is going from my inseam, like right under one armpit to right under the other armpit, inseam to inseam of the shirt, a little wider. If the shoulders are tight, place the belt just below the eye of the elbow, below meaning towards the wrist. Extend the arms forward and draw them up as you seek to break the belt almost, right? Like work those arms out against the belt, palms are facing each other, coming up. And notice, does the whole shoulder come up as you try to do that? If so, come on down, go again, draw those shoulder blades back, integrate them onto the back, and really those bottom tips of the shoulder blades, like they each have a 5-pound weight on them or something, really anchor them down as the fingertips go up. Feel free to come down and up a couple times. Just check that out. And again, lifting the whole rib cage off the hips. Keep that length in the side waists as you bring the arms down. Let go. So hopefully, maybe we started to feel some length here. Feel free to work with that as I share a little teaching, or just sit quietly and breathe, whatever you're needing in this moment. So we missed last week because of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and it was a big week in Torah, Parshat Yitro, and perhaps you studied it, the delivering of what we commonly call the 10 Commandments, Aseret HaDibrot, really more literally known as the 10 utterances, right? So these Israelites are starting to gain some form as a group with laws, with rules. And so Mishpatim, the name of this portion, it means rules, and it begins with further expansion on laws around slaves, around murder, theft, around treatment of women and livestock, widow and orphans. Some of them are weird, for sure. You might take a look at them. You might take a look at some commentary. And then we get to also the first mention so far of Shemitah, of rest. Exodus 23, verses 10 and 11, we have our first mention here. 6 years you shall sow your land and gather in its yield, but in the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie fallow. Vehashvi'it, and the 7th, tishmetena. You shall let it rest and lie fallow. So Shemitah, we've been talking about this. If you've been with us through this year, as the year began, because this is in Eretz Yisrael a Shemitah year. This is that 7th year of rest and release. And the portion goes on to talk about observance of the 3 festivals. Today we're going to base our practice on Shemitah. I thought, ding, 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 this was really a good moment to come back to that. We haven't revisited so much directly. And we're going to draw from Restorative Yoga. Staying still for a while and just allowing the body to rest in a form, more or less. We'll do kind of short-ish stays. One could do a 2-hour class with even what we're going to do today. But I think comparing restorative to Shemitah is not exactly right, because Shemitah is let it actually lie fallow, right? We're not letting the body lie fallow in this case. You could think of it, if we're going to further the metaphor, as regenerative agriculture. We're going to let the body rest and cultivate in the nervous system really parasympathetic response. So quiet. Okay. So that's one thing. And then I think, I'm drawing on a couple of other themes from our portion. So Moses is invited together with Aaron and Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu, and together with 70 elders to come up, literally, la'alot, to come up to God. And they are so spiritually open, right? The Kohanim, they've been practicing. The priests have a daily practice, a regular practice, many times a day, of purifying themselves to be able to come close to divine presence. And they have been doing this, so they are the ones who are asked, because they're invited, they're able to perceive God and not be killed from the immensity of this, right? So we can understand from the Kohanim and their practices that our practice on the mat and the way it informs our lives and furthers our attunement to the divine is really an important practice. There's 2 words in this portion, na'aseh v'nishma. Moses says, we will do it, na'aseh v'nishma, and we'll listen. All the things that you've told us, all the commandments, all the mitzvot, he says it first in a different order, and then he reverses it. The rabbis have always found this curious. We'll do it, and then we'll listen. Like, we'll do the mitzvot first, and then we'll understand them. So sometimes, we have to na'aseh. We have to put the body in a form, take a shape. Asana, the Sanskrit word for posture, literally means seat. We have to take our seat, make the shape, and then nishma. We'll listen to it. We'll listen. The nervous system will listen. The body will echo. We listen for the echo of that pose. So we're going to kind of look into that idea, na'aseh, and then v'nishma. And then listen. So those are the things I want to really lift up from this portion. And then God, of course, tells Moses to ascend, and so he can receive the 2 stone tablets with the commandments. The cloud covers Mount Sinai, Har Sinai. Moses goes inside the cloud, and of course he stays 40 days and 40 nights. Okay, so let's look at some rest. We're going to take, if you have your bolster, you would take it and put it horizontal, or you will take blankets just like this. So if you have a blanket like this, a yoga blanket, turn it this way, or you can even do a trifold, like kind of make a little accordion and make it taller. It'll be a little thinner, but taller. Again, I can't say exactly what's going to be right for you, right? So we're going to take a blanket or 2. And then you may also want either something on top for your head, a little more lift, or you can take that second blanket, pull it down, if that's what you have. That's another idea, right? We have to be a little creative here. And then We're going to butterfly the legs out to the side, soles of the feet together and the knees out to the side. Let me give you two offerings because we want to support the knees. We don't just want to let the knees flop, we want to support them. It might be too much on the groins to just let them flop open. You could take a block in some way under each knee, one possibility. If you have another blanket, you can take it, make a long sort of jelly roll. It doesn't need to be super tight, just a long roll. Put it on top of the ankles, wrap it around under. It's basically doing the same thing as the blocks, but I really enjoy this one. Wrap it under and then lie back. You might want to cover the eyes. You might want to cover on top with a blanket, with a sweater. So we're lying back, support the head. The first thing here is take the elbows to the floor, lift the mid-chest, and just as I was saying on the wall, can you draw those lower tips of the shoulder blades down the back? Just taking the shoulders away from the ears, and then lift the hips and draw the tailbone towards the ankles, towards the heels. Lengthen the low back. You can even take your own hands to the flesh of the low back or buttocks and draw the flesh down. So you make space for the low back, the mid-chest lifts. You can place your hands wherever feels most comfortable to you. See that it's not too much on the front of the shoulders, right? So the arms can go out to the sides, a little lower than shoulder height. They can rest on the low belly or the low ribs. You can keep the eyes open or closed as feels comfortable. Just pause. Bring your attention to the front body, exposed here, lifted, and specifically to the lower ribs. It's already there a bit lifted, and you might feel that the inhale gives a little more attention to the rib cage, the lungs. See if you can feel that inhale lift up and out from the base of the rib cage in front here all the way up to the collarbones. This pose is giving support to the diaphragm. See if you can soften the front lower ribs. So lifting, expanding, but also softening. Just allow yourself to be. So na'aseh, we put ourselves in the pose, and now nishma will listen. We're listening with the body, right? Not for sound, An inner, deep listening. What's going on? What sensations do you feel? Just letting that breath come in and go out. And then as you're ready, take your time, lift the knees, bring them back together. Either roll over to the side or press into your forearms and lift the chest to come up. Take your time. Now we're going to take child pose. So we are going to turn around and face whatever stack of things you had here. You might even want to make it a little higher. You'll see what works for you. I'm going to give you a couple of options. For those who feel okay with knee and hip and ankle flexion, draw this stack of things in toward you. Take the knees as wide as the mat. Fold forward. You want to let the whatever's here, your support the belly, support the whole front body, and lay down and bring your cheek to one side. Rest on one cheek. Buttocks really seeking the heels, right? So tailbone seeking the heels. You can even press into the hands. So you come back and then take it down. Okay, so that's if you're okay with that flexion. Let me give you a couple other options. So those who are okay with child pose, go ahead in. You might sit up on some support, so you're tall here, and then come forward, long spine, and rest your head. If that's too much on knees, ankles, etc., come to the chair, sit in the chair, take the knees wide, just lengthen the spine forward. Forearms to the thighs. You can even take the pads of the fingers and just rest your forehead into your fingers. I'm taking my thumbs actually into the muscle right at the jaw here and using the thumbs to also massage, so you get a sort of 2-for-1. So wherever you are, wherever you're choosing, be here. And bring your focus now, your front body's supported, bring the focus to your back body. Feel the back ribs lift and expand. And open. Allow the breath to massage the low back. The organs of the abdomen. Maybe you even feel on the inhale the way the shoulder blades naturally separate, those two wings separate away from the spine as the back ribs open. And if you're in child pose, turn your head so that you can rest evenly also to the other cheek. Soften. Let the support meet you. Again, we're giving support to the diaphragm, which attaches around the whole base of the rib cage.
We can't feel it per se, but we can visualize it. So with every inhale, as the rib cage expands in all directions, the diaphragm descends toward the abdomen. The center goes down, and as we exhale, the center of the abdomen comes back up to tuck under the rib cage. So just massaging internally with the breath.
As you're ready, come on up. I want to give you a few options for the legs up the wall. If you don't have wall access, you're going to take the legs onto a chair. Put something under your head. Take the back of the calves to the chair. You'll lay down like this. Palms turned up. Even if you have access to wall, you might prefer it, you'll see. Wall option. You may want a little lift for the hips or not. People like this pose different ways, so I kind of like to teach it both ways. But a little more traditional would be to take a folded blanket, leave a couple inches space between blanket and wall, bring one hip to the wall and roll up, legs up the wall. Extra stuff for your legs if you want, just can be nice. Maybe if not now, just put this in your pocket for later. Block between the calves and then belt them. That roughly gives you hip width here. And then your legs can really rest. If the hamstrings are tight, you'll move a little further away from the wall. So here we are, legs up the wall or legs on a chair. Let the arms come out to the side. Somewhere between shoulder height and at the waist, somewhere in the middle, kind of like snow angel. Palms face up, and tuck your shoulder blades under you, like two wings, place them on the back. And now rest. Let the breath come in and go out. Listening, feeling, just being right here. Trusting that the body can hold you in stillness. If the mind is active, if it's racing, it's not a problem. Don't worry. You don't have to make an effort to try and clear your mind. Just when you notice that agitation, see if you can just come back to right here, this pause, the breath going in, the breath going out. We'll stay a couple more minutes here. So take your time as you're ready. Feel free to stay here. You can stay here for the rest of the period. If you're loving it, just stay, for sure. If you're ready to come out, bend the knees. If you had the props, you can remove. And bending your knees, rolling to one side, and coming on up. We're going to lie down and work on breathing a little bit for a moment. So we have this blanket like so, and now I'm going to take it rather than just one fold to make it in half. I'm going to give it a little like trifold, like a little accordion. So it's thinner but taller. So if you have 2 blankets, do that and then take a second blanket or pillow or towel or whatever for your head. If you have only 1 blanket, let me make a suggestion. Widen the blanket like so. Make the accordion a handful of times. Like really make it thin and tall. So I did like 5. So it's sort of like a little pyramid almost. And then it's very long. So this is if you just have the 1 blanket, this can be really nice. We're going to sit with our back to the blanket, however you have it. Right. Again, take the buttock flesh away towards the heels. And then you could, if you have the long blanket, you can roll the top back, little pillow for your head. Okay, so this blanket is thinner. It's supporting my spine, supporting your spine, right? And let the 2 halves of the chest kind of fall off. Let the shoulder blades really release to either side. Again, you can keep the eyes open or closed, but we want to stay alert. So if you're feeling sleepy, keep them open. Take the hands to the low ribs. Knees are bent, soles of the feet on the floor. If you prefer, you can lengthen the legs out. Just feeling the breath coming and going. If something's uncomfortable, you'll readjust. Right? So you really do want to make sure the pose fits you, not that you fit all of the props and such. Feel the inhale come in to your hands, placed on those front ribs. And feel the exhale recede from the palms of your hands. Let the back body descend. Let it be earthbound. Let the abdominal organs move back. So again, making width and space for that respiratory diaphragm. Nothing heroic on the breath. You don't even particularly need to lengthen it. It's nothing you need to do. Simply inhaling and exhaling through the nose. Lips are easy. Feel the expansion of the rib cage. If there's any discomfort in your low back or anywhere along the spine, if you don't want to be lifted up like this, simply remove the padding and just lie flat to the floor. If the mind wanders, just bring it back. We're cultivating an awareness of breath here. So, for the next few cycles, consider the inhale, as I said before, from the diaphragm up to the collarbone. So, widening the rib cage, the upper chest. And consider the exhale as a release of the belly, from the diaphragm down to the pelvic floor, softening navel to spine. So exhale, concentrated low. Inhale, lifting and opening the chest very naturally in this position. See if you can maintain a bit of that opening as you exhale from the diaphragm down. Try it a few of your own breath cycles. And after 2 or 3, just take a cleansing cycle or 2. Just let the body and mind reset, and then try it again. Again, pretty quiet, pretty still, but inhale, focusing above the diaphragm. Exhale, focusing below the diaphragm. And then again, just let it go. Come to total stillness. You could stay here or take a more traditional shavasana, just rolling over, coming off the support. Legs back to the chair if you like, or legs extended. Just however you want to be, that you can be still for a minute or 2 here. As you're ready, knees bent, rolling over onto one side, coming to fetal position. You might use the upper arm as a pillow for your head. And take your time to press up to a comfortable seat, sitting up on blankets or block or chair. Once again with the back supported. And take your time. You could bring the blocks under the knees if you have, for a little support. If you have a blanket handy, you could take a folded blanket, lay it across the legs, Little support for your forearms. Let the palms face up. So returning just like we did on the floor. Back is supported, back of the skull supported. Can you focus the intention of the inhale above the diaphragm, base of the rib cage to the collarbone, lifting, opening, and focus the exhale below the diaphragm, low belly, pelvic floor. Try to attune like that for a few cycles. And then you can let go, let the breath be, and then come back to it for a few more cycles. In yoga, this work is called Pranayama. We call it breath work, but literally it means ayama, extension of prana, of the life force. Working with the breath, ruach, right? In our Jewish language, nishima. Working with the breath to extend and open the life force, which you might say, working with nishima to increase nishama, right? Again, in the Shemitah analogy of, if we're talking regenerative agriculture, we can actually use the breath, not always in every instance, but to help heal trauma. Not always the best first course is what I mean, but we can use the breath to rejuvenate ourselves when we're tired. We can use the breath to calm ourselves when we're anxious. So it really has application in every direction. So we engage heartily in this practice of pranayama, of breath work, of na'aseh, doing it, v'nishma, and then listening for it. What's the effect? A few more cycles. Inhaling above the diaphragm. Exhaling, belly. So we find maybe that we've gained a little bit of buoyancy through this rib cage. Again, a couple cycles like that, and then drop it, go back to your regular breath. And we'll close our practice. If you're still going on that, come back. Just let the breath be its own guide. Notice how you feel. And as you're ready, allow the eyes to flutter open. Come back to the room. Shavua Tov, wishing you a good week. I'll stay on for sharing and questions for a few minutes. And I want to just give a caveat that some of you may feel really like rested and calmed from this practice, and some of you might actually feel more agitated than you were when you began. And doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do the practice again. It doesn't mean it's not right for you. It's just that sometimes the mind, body doesn't drop in with this. Maybe today wasn't the right day for you. So if you feel agitated, don't give up hope or heart. Don't be discouraged. It's a worthy practice. And if this was your first time having a taste of restorative yoga, I also want to say the same, that it involves a bit of a headspace to become familiar I tried to reduce the propage and all of that, but it sometimes takes a little time to become familiar. What are we doing here? So this was really just a taste. So I hope you enjoyed, and love any feedback on it. Before we go to questions, I want to let you know that I also teach a class on Sundays. It's a 90-minute class. It's a paid class. And it's really lovely. It's a smaller group. And if you ever want to come, or if you want to be on my mailing list for that, just email me, shammash@gmail.com. And the class is Sundays 9 to 10:30 Eastern Time. Some people in other time zones request recordings. If they don't want to get up early, you can do that as well. So I just want to offer that. That's not through IJS, that's just through me. So if you'd like to be added to my mailing list, please give a shout, give a holler. So if you have a question or just a reaction or a thought, how was practice for you today? It's so nice to share it in this community. You can use the hand raising feature in reactions on the bottom bar. Amy in Atlanta, thank you for the heart and thank you for that beautiful background photo. It looks right out of the hidden life of trees. Stunning. Rabbi Johanna, hello.
Hi, I did legs up the wall today. Previously, I had been told if I had low blood pressure, I shouldn't do it. I was wondering why that is. Do you know?
Yeah, it's because it puts your head roughly below your heart. I mean, or
Uh-huh.
on the same place as your heart, and it could take your blood pressure down. Um, I would say you can check it out. If you come up and you feel really dizzy or nauseated in any way, then it's not a good thing for you. But if you can come out slowly and you sit up and you stay a moment and you're fine, I think that there are so many other benefits to the pose that it's worth investigating it.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that's helpful.
It is. It's very helpful.
Okay, great, great, great. I want to see if
Shavua Tov, thank you very much.
Shavua Tov, Judith, and then Minna.
Hi. Okay. I noticed for me, I think I found the props a little confusing. Only because I was trying to place the props and look at you to make sure that my farm was right. And then I'd like miss something and I'd get back to the prop and feel like I had to catch up. Partly I noticed it with the against the wall part because I wasn't sure how close to the wall I should be. You know,
Mm,
once I put the blankets down, I was like, and then I tried to scoot up closer, but I had the block in between my legs with the strap and it made it harder. So that was a bit challenging for me. I'm sure it just takes getting used to. Um, so there's that. And then also, this is just something I've noticed even with regular meditation work. I've been noticing that my breathing, when I breathe in, um, and then try to direct it toward the belly, for example, I notice there's this point, like somewhere in the diaphragm where I kind of clench or pause, or like I don't, it doesn't go smoothly. Like there's a moment where I kind of hold it and then I have to like tell myself to kind of keep going.
yeah.
And I don't know if other people experience that or if it's just me. It's like, I don't know how
No,
long I've been doing that, but it
no,
happens
it's
a
super
lot.
common. I mean, I think, it's probably like the solar plexus, right? Which is
Yeah.
which is a nexus of so many ganglia. And that's why we say like the emotional center is here. We hold so much of our emotional life in this place. So sometimes when we try to access the breath, it's like, it
Yeah.
just
I mean,
pulls
not
it.
quite that, but yeah.
Right. So, I'm a professional singer. I've been doing this since I was 17, just like lying down and trying to breathe a little bit every day. Like that's really our study. So, not uncommon at all. And it's why there's a whole area of yoga and in many other traditions just devoted to how do we free this breath. There are so many things that can get in the way. And it's not just a body, it's a body mind. It's one. It's a body mind heart.
So
So
just keep
feel
trying to
it.
breathe through it. Hmm.
Yeah, notice it. See how you can work with it. Notice if it changes. Notice if it dissolves. When you meet the hardness, do you harden against it or can you soften to the hardness? You can. This is why it's also good to say do one or two breath cycles and then leave it be, and then come back one or two breath cycles. That's why we start really baby steps for that very reason.
Hmm.
It's a great question, Judith, and I'm glad you asked it because I think
Thanks.
it's true for a lot of people.
Okay.
Whenever somebody asks a question, many others are thinking it too. So thanks.
Okay.
Minna,
Sure.
and then Jan.
Well, first, thank you. And secondly, I loved my legs up the wall. I do this every day before I go to bed. And it
Beautiful.
does lower my blood pressure, which is a good thing. And it's also helpful for getting ready for sleep. But I do it with just my legs straight up, but doing it at the wall was very restful today. So I
Beautiful.
like that as well.
Beautiful. And for those who putting the legs all the way up the wall straight, it's too much on the hamstrings or doesn't feel good on the low back. You really get the same benefit when you put the legs on the chair. I want to remind that. Jan, please.
Hi, Lizzie.
Hi, Jan.
Love the hair.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
so I used my bargain basement suggested by you hugger mugger bolster instead of the blanket. Is that too high? I mean, I have to get my money's worth out of this wonderful toy you gave me.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, did it feel too high? In the first thing, when we had the legs butterflied, I like the bolster for that. In the breath work at the end, I like to come down and keep that sort of pyramid accordion sort of blanket, just keep it much lower. So it's really just, we can feel a little more nuance on the spine and paraspinal muscles. But Jan, there are just, in terms of getting your money's worth on the bolster, there are so many things you can do. If you don't have this book, it's so good. Back Care Basics, Mary Pullig Schatz, and or really kind of the first one, the grandmother of it all, Judith, sorry, you can't really see, I think, Relax and Renew, Judith Lassiter.
Will you put those in the chat when
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
I will.
What I
Judith
found,
Lassiter's kind of the queen of restorative yoga. Back Care Basics is a little more back issue and less about bolster.
well, we could all use back things.
We can. I love both these books. I use them a lot. Let's see. Relax.
And what I found when I felt like it was too high and my rib cage was like way too hyperextended, I just put pillows under my elbows or my arms, and that
Good.
do it. So
I want to say something about that too because it relates to what Mary Pullig Schatz. Yeah, got it. It relates to what Judith asked because if you're up too high, you'll feel it because you feel a hardening. I do right at that low rib place, right at the diaphragm. You feel hardening. That's part of what, so then oh, okay, I got to respond to this. I always say about yoga, it's a science, but it's an art also. And it's really an art because yes, we want to be aligned properly, but every body is different. So what, you might need a little more oregano or less garlic or, more nutmeg. Don't ever use too much nutmeg, actually. Right. But you know what I'm saying. More salt, more pepper, less pepper. So everybody's just a little different. Michelle H. Oh, hello, friend.
Hi, Lizzie. Thank you so much. And Michelle H. is my wife, who is here, and I'm Mark H. We're related. So, first of all, thank you so much for your practice. We do it every week. I am intrigued. I've been doing yoga for a long time and enjoy it. And what I'm coming to learn is there's this other practice of yoga, perhaps a shadow yoga, that's sort of a yin yoga. And I have been doing yang yoga without me knowing the difference for so many years. And I'm coming to learn the difference. I feel today as though the practice you talked about today was more of a yin yoga related to parasympathetic nervous system, relaxation. And I'm beginning to incorporate this different feature of yoga. And I wonder if you could speak a little bit about that if I'm totally off the wall.
No, you're exactly right, Mark. And I'm really glad that you asked this question because then I can clarify for people, and that's great. Yes, restorative is in the yin box for sure. The dialed down. Yin yoga is even more active than what we did today, which we do a little bit sometimes here, where you're in a pose that you stay in for a while, but it's not necessarily fully supported. Like it might be a low lunge and we're working on releasing the hip flexors, the front of the hip, right? So yin, the real focus of yin yoga, as developed, I think originally by this guy, Paul Grilly, is the idea of releasing the fascia. Because the fascia are like a saran wrap suit that goes over all the musculature, that if the fascia, it's kind of like a thing that's everywhere in the body. And you have to soften the fascia in order to really get to things. So when you stay longer, you get past muscle to fascia. That's the theory of yin. There's a small book on yin yoga. You could read more about it if you want. By Paul Grilly. There's another yin yoga book by Bernie Clark. Yang is more active, right? So what's often called just basic hatha yoga, ashtanga, vinyasa, those things are in the yang category. Here's today's book day. This is a super nice book if you want to kind of learn about both. Insight Yoga by Sarah Powers. She kind of talks through yin and yang, and she's also a doctor of Chinese medicine, I believe. Insight. This is what she developed. And you get a little bit of like acupuncture in this book. You get yin practices, yin sequences, yang sequences. It's a really nice book for those who like books. So the thinking though is, and then restorative is just like really, we were a little more like in a true restorative class, this might have been 90 minutes, even just what we did. So like each thing we held for 5, we could hold for 20 minutes. It's really good to balance your practice with both. And it's really good to know what your body needs, because especially in this life, in this day and age, sometimes we just go yang, 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 and we think more is better. And, practices like Kapalabhati breathing, the one that's, if you've ever done that, the forced exhalation, we just do more and more and more of that. And I actually had one teacher say, never do that. Never do that breath. You never need it. We all need to ratchet our nervous systems down. So it's kind of like that. I'm sorry that our time is up. Jacqueline Gordon, recommendations on breathing. Yes, I would go first if I were you to this book, The Breathing Book by Donna Farhi. It's a nice one. The Breathing Book.
I just wanted to offer to everyone on this conversation about breath that I heard a long time ago, something that I've found very helpful throughout any kind of practice. And that is the idea of sending my breath to wherever I'm experiencing sensation or tightness. And when Judith started describing that traveling up to the diaphragm and that stuckness, for me, that often signals stress that I'm not aware of, and I'm making the connection because it's stuck in my body. I'm envisioning healing breath going to that tightness, and eventually it clears. That's
Thank
the
you, Judy. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're out of time. It's so great. I love that. Yes, bring breath to where there is tension. We'll